I love decorating my walls with something that means something to me, so in this chapter, we're gonna make a cyanotype art. What that is, it's a sun print, and we're gonna be using flowers. You could use something from your wedding bouquet. I like to use just flowers that I found in my backyard or on hikes with my daughter. And I love this project. Anyone can do it. You don't need that many supplies, and I like that there's a little bit of experimentation in it because that gets you into the DIY mindset. So let's get into it. So this paper is really cool. Cyanotype paper, it is a chemical reaction that happens with the sun. So whatever you put on top of it, it'll create a negative of it. Engineers used to use it to make inexpensive copies of house prints, which is where we get the name blueprints. But today we're just using flowers. When you're picking flowers for this project, I like something that's a little bit more delicate. If you get a flower like a tulip or a daisy, there's not a lot of room for the sun to go through, so it kind of ends up just looking like a blob. So something like Queen Anne's lace allows for the sun to come through and see a lot of that detail. So to make your flower print, you'll need cyanotype paper. It comes in a couple different sizes, and then gold frames that correspond with the size. Mounting squares, which will help your print from curling. An acrylic sheet that you set on top of your flowers to keep them in place. I like a hard surface like a cutting board so you can work on there and then transfer that outside. A container with water to give your print a bath, and that will help with the chemical reaction. Ideally for this project, you're gonna wanna have a sunny day. It makes the chemical reaction happen a lot quicker. If you do have an overcast day, it's a little bit trickier because you have to let it sit longer. And then you're gonna wanna get more paper than you think you need. If you want 3 prints, maybe get 6 or 9 so you can try different combinations and you can figure out how long you need it in the sun to get the best contrast. And that's it. Let's get into it. So now we're gonna get into arranging the flowers. It's important to know that once you take this paper out of the packaging, the chemical reaction begins. So I like to arrange my flowers ahead of time. So I'm gonna grab the Queen Anne's lace, and we're just gonna start simple on this first one and use 1 flower. So I'm just gonna trim that, the cyanotype paper. You want the blue side up, and then you'll put your flower, and then you squish it with the acrylic sheet. You wanna try to get it as flat as you possibly can so none of the sun seeps in on the side. So press it really flat. Now that this is flat, we're gonna take this outside and let it sit in the sun. I found that my sweet spot on a sunny day is 1 to 3 minutes, but you'll see when it turns from blue to bright white, that means it's done. So that only took about a minute, and next is my favorite part. We're gonna dunk it in the water and watch the white turn to blue and the blue turn to white. So for all you science lovers, what's actually happening here is that the original blue compound is water soluble. So when you immerse it in the bath, the water carries it away, leaving only the white paper base in those areas. And you'll wanna have it in the water for about 1 to 2 minutes. And then you can pull it out, and I'm gonna let it dry for about 10 minutes. Okay, we're dry now, and it tends to wrinkle a little bit, so I like to frame it as soon as possible. That way it'll flatten it. I'm using gold frames today. I really like how the gold pops with the blue. It just is a really pretty complement. I like to figure out my placement and then put my mat on top. That looks good. And then I'm gonna use some of these little mounting squares just so it stays in place. And just get right underneath the corners. I like to put 1 in each corner. Okay, so after you put all your braces in, you'll have your cyanotype. Can we acknowledge how good this looks? I like to do a bunch of them. I have 3 hanging above my bed. I'm gonna repeat the same process, but on this one I'm gonna use a larger piece and I'm gonna do a few flowers. Okay, now I'm gonna start arranging the larger ones. This project's fun. You can use, flowers that mean something, or you can just grab some weeds from your backyard, which is pretty much what I did. I like Queen Anne's lace. It has a lot of good memories, just of taking hikes with my daughter and picking flowers. She likes to stop and sniff every single one, which is really fun. One of my thrift tips is that using secondhand frames is such a great way to make this an inexpensive project. You can find them for $1 or $2 at your secondhand stores. I like to use a nice white crisp mat because I feel like it makes the flowers pop. Put this in here and then layer this guy on there. So that's it. So we have our 3 pieces of art, and they look so good. And over the next couple hours, this will actually get bluer, and the white will show more detail. But for now, we can hang them. The gallery wall is hung, and I'm just so happy with how it turned out. In this chapter, I showed you how to make cyanotype art using wildflowers and cyanotype paper. Everyone asks me, how do I get into DIY? And I always say, start with something easy. I can't wait to see how yours turns out.